Getting into debt can lead to an unhappy life. Sometimes there are circumstances in life where we can't afford what we need, and it's a necessity to borrow. Other times, we might not have the self-control that we need to wait a little bit longer. Staying out of debt can help people to be happier. Knowing these things can help us to either wait to buy that thing that we want or to pay off the things that we needed to borrow. There are tools and guidelines that can help us to stay out of debt. But before that, I want to focus on why it's so good to stay out of debt. Many people find themselves in debt. I am one of them. Sometimes there are things like school or cars or a home that are kind of necessary, and so we need to borrow. There are other things like credit cards or personal loans for maybe fun things that we could have waited for. Whatever the reason, debt makes it hard to feel that control that we need in life. There's a following study: Trajectories of Unsecured Debt Across the Life Course and Mental Health at Midlife by Amy Sun and her associates. And the study delves deeper into this idea that those who have been in debt, especially over a longer period of time, feel higher levels of depression. The higher level of debt, the higher the level of depression. And on the flip side, the lower level of debt, the lower level of depression. This study helps to support the idea that being in debt is not a happy thing, that it is something that we should avoid as much as we can. Another study supports this same idea: Unsecured Consumer Debt and Mental Health Outcomes in Middle-Aged and Older Americans by Karen Zerlo and her colleagues show us that the amount of debt and the occurrence of incurring debt increase the level of depression in people. Now, this is the idea that someone's in debt and they continue to get into more debt. It makes that depression even worse. And I know for myself, this is a bad habit that people can get into. If I'm already in debt, there's no way out of this, but I still need these things, I gotta borrow more. Those feelings of depression when we do this become even worse. And so the more debt that we incur, the less control that we feel, and that depression just continues and continues. I was at a point in my life where I was very, very depressed because of my finances. I had gone to school for years. I had bought a car and had incurred other debt that was unnecessary. And I was in a hole. There was no way that I felt to get out. And so my depression was horrible, lower than it had been in my life. And that's something that the studies talk about, that if you already have depression, debt can make it even worse. And that was my case. Something that really helped me to get out of that hole and to help me to get out of that debt was this workbook called Personal Finances for Self-Reliance. Now, there are many different tools out there that can help you to get out of debt. This one personally worked for me. And something that I noticed as I'm getting out of debt is that those depression, the depressive moods and the anxiety that come from debt are not as strong as they once were. There's a quote from this workbook that says, "You will learn how to act on your path toward greater self-reliance as you learn these tools. You will be blessed with greater hope, peace, and progress." Now, this book was written by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and so it has spiritual connotation as well as the financial tools themselves that can help you to get out of debt. It helped me knowing that there was a bigger picture, that, okay, There's a reason why being in debt makes us unhappy. We're meant to be self-reliant people. And so what this workbook does is it has 12 different steps that help individuals to learn tools to first evaluate, okay, where am I financially? How much debt have I incurred? And then from there, look at, okay, how can I pay this off as soon as I can? And how can I avoid getting into debt in the future? Again, personally, this has been a huge help in my life. I've been able to pay off quite a bit of my debt, not get into more debt, and start a savings that will help me in the future to stay out of debt. These guidelines and these tools can help to bring about peace and a greater sense of that control that was lost once before. I do feel like I am in more control of my life. I still have that debt, but I am not incurring more, which the study from before talked about that. There's a reason why being self-reliant and only spending what you have and staying out of debt as much as possible makes you happier. You can have more stability in your life, and it helps you to be accountable to yourself as well. These feelings of depression and anxiety that come from debt will lessen as an individual seeks out and finds ways to gain control once again over their finances, instead of allowing themselves to be controlled by them. Keeping finances in control by first staying out of debt if you can, or getting out of debt if you're already in it, is one of the best ways to stay happy and psychologically healthy. Getting in debt, especially high debt, can bring about that depressive and anxious state that worsens over time. Learning and utilizing finance tools to stay out of and to get out of debt allows an individual to be self-reliant and to gain that feeling of control, which lessens that feeling of depression and lack of control. So what I have learned from this and from my own life is that staying out of debt is the way to go. Spend what you have, borrow when needed, but pay it off as quickly as you can, and you can have a happy and healthy life.